Welcome, everybody, to another glorious episode of the Put On Waivers podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. And my partner is James Amato. He's podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Atlantic Ocean. James, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. A little bit hurried. I got stuck at work, and then I just came home and ate 2 hot dogs like I was Joey Chestnut. So,
yes.
Other than that, I'm ready to go. The weather is getting much better here in Connecticut. We had some 60s the last couple of days.
Yes.
So let's get to summer.
Yeah, be careful choking on hot dogs. That can be a nightmare. That can be a nightmare. You can reach us at RTPOW podcast, and you can see James at JR_Amato 824, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. Our text line is 858-429-9465. A couple of cities listen to the Put On Waivers podcast: Butte, Montana, Marlboro, New Jersey, Hartford, Connecticut, Campbell, California, and Hugh, Ohio. We have a guest on our show today. His name is Eric Heisman. Locked On Astros. All about the Astros here on the Put On Waivers podcast. Eric, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Just hope this is not a big old trash can festival today.
It's not. It really is. It really isn't.
I heard the Connecticut.
Oh yeah.
No, not at all.
No,
Dwayne knows how much I support the Astros over here.
Yes, okay. Exactly. And the Yankees lost that series because they didn't score any runs. So right. Sorry, you don't score any runs. It's just your fault. The first question is about it, but it's a fair question. It's not okay. I'm not gonna go crazy about that stuff anymore because it's old news. But with that, you saw like kind of in football, the Patriots kind of like had to move on from Spygate and stuff like that. This is, the Astros. People are still going to talk about it. The Dodgers are still going to cry about it. I'm a San Francisco Giant fan, so I was happy. I didn't care how the Astros got it done, to be honest with you. But has that been kind of lifted from the organization? Have they been able to move on? Do you feel like they are going to be able to move in the right direction now going forward?
I think the players have moved past it, but I don't think the fans have. I think that the fans, especially the Dodgers, the Yankees fans, they're going to be like, hey, we didn't get to boo them last year. We had to stand outside the stadiums. We had to stand outside on the streets while the bus drove by to boo them last year. So we're going to boo them this year. And there's a lot of people last year who bought tickets just to fly out to Minute Park just to boo the Astros. And so all those people, they have not forgotten. Even though the Dodgers won the World Series, they have not forgotten what happened. And we saw an incident yesterday at the Astros game where a security guard, a guy paid by the stadium, I think it was the Mets Stadium, and the guy was a security guard. And during Alex Bregman's at bat, all the guy did was bang a trash can before every pitch came. This isn't going away. This is not going away. And so fans are going to still continue to go this. I think the Dodgers and the Yankees players, they're still going to have the animosity there. But I think a lot of people are like the Trevor Bauers of the world. They'll be like, just let it go. We just want to play baseball. But there's going to be some people out there. But the fans, I don't think this is going away anytime soon.
Yeah. And Dwayne knows this, and it's not because I'm a Patriots fan, but every team cheats in every sport. Some teams are just better than others. So I think they opened up a whole can of worms. Fires did when he went on the podcast and said that was going on in Houston. So, and up to that point, the Yankees have been called out too.
And he's accidentally hurt, so he can't start opening day versus the Astros. Gosh darn.
Hey, listen, accidentally hurt as far as that goes. On the field now, being from Connecticut, George Springer, we know him very well. Tremendous player. Now is member of the Toronto Blue Jays. How much of a hole you feel like that's going to be in the lineup and leadership and in the outfield for the Astros this year?
Well, it's actually a big loss, not just for what he does. I believe he leads the Astros in leadoff homers in the franchise history, but what he brought to this organization, it just not just as a player, but as what he represented during those 100 lost seasons. I remember the season ticket rep kept on calling me and said, Eric, do you want to buy season tickets? I said, look, if you bring up George Springer, I'll buy some season tickets. And so he said, I can't do anything about that. But what happened when they brought up George Springer is I did buy season tickets. But what he represented was hope. He represented the hope that the future was bright. And when he came up, he didn't disappoint. And he came up and he hit home runs. Yes, he had trouble staying healthy, but he was that dynamic force. And the Sports Illustrated kind of depicted him as the guy who would win the World Series MVP, and he ended up doing that. So I think what he represented, not just the clubhouse DJ after the Astros victory, but he was also the clubhouse leader. He represented more than just the baseball player. He was the life of the clubhouse. I mean, Jose Altuve was the team leader. Then now last year, Carlos Correa kind of took over as the bad boy of the Astros clubhouse. And but George Springer will be missed. You can't replace him. The Astros don't have anybody that can replace him, but good luck to him in Toronto. But the Astros have got to get some more production. They got to get the production from Yordan Alvarez to replace his bat, but you can never replace George Springer. He was everybody's favorite Astro.
One thing like we loved about the Astros, and Dwayne and I talked about it a lot, was just how much fun that team was to watch and how much fun they were having on the field. And that's where my love, not love, but I rooted for the Astros all the time in the postseason. Wanted to see them win that World Series. That's so elusive World Series for them. Who is the one player this year that's going to drive Astro fans batty?
Batty as in
who's on the who's on the cusp, who needs to have a big season, who's the one who's going to drive you guys crazy, like, hey, like I can't deal with this guy anymore, or like he really needs to step his game up.
Well, I tell you what, if Alex Bregman is the same Alex Bregman he was last year, then a lot of people are going to go crazy because he was not the same guy last year. And Jose Altuve, I know he was dealing with a death in the family due to COVID last year, and he was the Astros fan kind of went back and listened to all the trash can bangs, and they documented that Jose Altuve was the one person that had the fewest amount of bangs occurred during his at-bats. So, but he still has this legacy to uphold, and so he played a little timid last year, and so he's looking like he's having a little fun. And I think you just hit it on the head. The Astros, when they play good, they play fun. Last year, Alex Bregman, he looked like he was serious all the time. He was not having fun. Jose Altuve was not having fun. George Springer didn't look like he was having fun a lot too. So the Astros have got, you saw how they played in playoffs. Carlos Correa was pumping up everybody, and just people were just having fun. That's how the Astros win. And so if Altuve and Bregman are not leading the way, then the Astros are going to have some troubles.
And recently, a couple of players have come out and said that they want to play in Houston. They want their extensions. How is that sitting over there in the media? Like, how are you guys taking it as fans? And how are you guys looking into that?
Well, Carlos Correa has said that if the Astros do not extend him by the April 1st deadline, he is not going to talk to them during the season, and he's willing to become a free agent. He's willing to take a lesser of a deal to stay with the Astros, but they're going to have to risk losing him through free agency. As we saw with George Springer, the Astros don't have much luck retaining their free agents. They lost Marwin Gonzalez. They lost Charlie Morton. They lost Dallas Keuchel. They don't have good luck keeping their players. And so if they're not able to reach a deal, Carlos Correa, he's basically begging them. He's saying, come on, I want to stay here. Just sign me. Give me the money. I'll take less of money. Just stay here. I want to be an Astro for the rest of my life. And the Astros would really be stupid to not sign him because he is what this team needs. And everybody needs to Charles Oakley, the bad boy, to kind of fight the fight. And that's what Carlos Correa kind of became this last year. When Cody Bellinger would say something about the Astros, Gray would come over there and say something. And then when forgot what that pitcher's name was, the one who kind of did the whole stick up his nose to him and say little B word. I don't know if you can say that
Chip
on
Kelly.
this podcast. Yeah, but that was to Carlos Correa. So Carlos Correa and the Astros need to sign him. The other one is Lance McCullers. He wants an extension, but the Astros don't typically offer long-term extensions to pitchers, and definitely ones coming off of Tommy John. So him coming off that, and he needs to prove it. So I think both Carlos Correa has dealt with a lot of injuries, and so has Lance McCullers recently. So both of them, if they have a healthy season, they're going to up their ante. So if the Astros are smart, they're going to really sign Carlos Correa right now. But it all depends on what happens for Francisco Lindor. According to John Heyman, the Mets are offering a $300 million deal to him. I don't know how long, but if Lindor signs that, then Carlos Correa is like, hey, look at what they got over there. So the Astros be like, yeah. But it could take 10 years, $25 million per year. So that's $250 million to start off with. And Correa is probably going to want more. So the Astros are going to have to be like, can we afford that? So they have 9 days to do that, or else Carlos Correa is going to be like, I'm going to wait.
Yeah, I thought they moved on from Keuchel at the right time. I thought that was the right move. I was surprised. I was not surprised that they didn't renegotiate with him. But how about a Houston fan throwing a shout out to a '94 Nick?
Yeah, there you go. You gotta love that. Again, Correa would enter what would be a tremendous free agent shortstop class next year if he became a free agent. What's the ceiling for somebody like Kyle Tucker? How good can he be?
He can be as good as he can be. A lot of people have compared his swing to Ted Williams. I wouldn't go that far, but if he can make contact and consistent contact, he can. He has a smooth swing. He has some holes in his swing, but if he can put it all together like we saw last year, he can be really good. So he can be a maybe 30 to 40 home run a year type of guy with maybe 15 stolen bases, maybe more, depending on how much they allow him to run. It just depends. Batting average, he can be anywhere from 260 to 280. I don't see him being above that. Mm-hmm. But if he fixes some things, he could be a 300 hitter. But I don't know. That's kind of what we're all looking at is how good can Kyle Tucker be? I think that the ceiling could be a George Springer type of player where he can have that upside, but we've been kind of waiting to see what he can be. And I think last year we saw a glimpse, but now we need to see it for a full season. And we got to see how he adjusts to the league because the league saw him last year. They didn't have time to adjust. Now let's see what happens when they do have time to adjust.
Any prospects in the farm system who might come up and wow baseball fans from the Astros?
Well, I don't know if he's gonna come up this year or be given an opportunity, but Jeremy Pena is somebody to keep an eye on. He had a good Dominican league. He was playing alongside Robinson Cano and Fernando Tatis Jr. and he was hitting home runs while they weren't. But he hit a home run yesterday. But he plays shortstop, second base, so I don't know where he's going to play, but he could be a super utility guy. But he's probably not going to make a super big impact until next year. But another guy is probably not going to make impact until next year is Pedro Leon. But he has the upside to be another George Springer. He is a guy from Cuba, and he just signed this past offseason. So, and he didn't play at all in 2020. The last time he played was 2019. So he is the Astros center fielder of the future. He could make his debut at some point this year, but he'll have to be rushed like Yuli Gurriel was. But he is 22 years old, 23, I think, maybe. So, but he can be dominant, and a lot of scouts like him. So we'll have to see how good he can be. But I don't think 2021 is his season.
As far as the division goes, obviously a competitive division, the A's and everybody, A's, Angels, Rangers, Mariners, all those things like that. Where do you feel like this version of the Astros lie? Like, can they win the division? Can they make a wild card? Can they make a wild card in the American League?
Yes, I think it's gonna be really tight. I don't think the Mariners, the Rangers are even close. I think that it's gonna be between the Angels. It depends on how good their pitchers are. I know Ohtani's kind of shown some signs, but he's only gonna pitch every 6th day. The rest of the rotation, is it good enough? I know they have Rendon and Trout in their lineup, but do they have enough? I think it's really going to come down between the Astros and the A's, but neither team is a 100-win team. I think both teams are maybe about 93, 92 wins. I think it's really going to be a tight division. So it's going to be, I think both teams could make the playoffs. I still think the Astros probably have enough pitching. I know the A's may have a deeper bullpen and maybe a deeper rotation with the Astros injuries, but I still think the Astros have a deeper lineup, and I think it's going to be a tight race all year. But the one thing the Astros don't have is they don't have the ability to make a big splash at the trade deadline because they don't have much in terms of luxury tax to go to add any salary because they have a lot of salary. So
yeah, that was my next question too. If they were able to go over that. Eric Heisman, Locked On Astros, is part of that Locked On podcast network, the land of the Built Bar. You guys know it well. So I appreciate you coming on the Put On Waivers podcast, and keep up the good work, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Astro fans. I've seen the Astros quite a few times up in Fenway. And especially on the weekend series, there's easily 4,000 to 5,000 fans at Fenway Park. So
underrated.
Great job by the Astro fans for being a traveling fan base.
Texas is an underrated baseball state. I mean, it's a huge sports state, period. But I always see whenever just to what he just said. Well, I'm a Giants fan, and I live in San Diego. But whenever the rotation comes where they come out here, there's a lot of people from Texas rooting on their team. So
for as big as a football state that they are, you guys travel well with your baseball team. So
no question about it.
Yes. A lot of the season ticket holders, they somehow have all this money to go fly and go watch the Red Sox. I'm like, must be nice. I'm just a teacher.
Yeah, it's oil. I guess they must be.
You're not just a teacher.
Oil money's everywhere, I guess, out there. All right, Eric, thank you. I appreciate it, man.
All right, no problem.
Thank you.